and share my screen. Today we are still in the manual for teachers, and we are on section 8 of the characteristics of God's teachers. Let's go ahead and start reading, and then we can discuss. Those who are certain of the outcome can afford to wait and wait without anxiety. Patience is natural to the teacher of God. All he sees is certain outcome, at a time, perhaps, unknown to him as yet, but not in doubt. The time will be as right as is the answer. And this is true for everything that happens now or in the future. The past as well held no mistakes, nothing that did not serve to benefit the world, as well as him to whom it seemed to happen. Perhaps it was not understood at the time. Even so, the teacher of God is willing to reconsider all his past decisions if they are causing pain to anyone. Patience is natural to those who trust, sure of the ultimate interpretation of all things in time. No outcome, already seen or yet to come, can cause them fear. Ooh, I love that. That reminds me, there's a podcaster, her name is Terry Real, or Terry Cole, I'm sorry. And she claims to be the boundary boss in setting boundaries, right, for herself. And she just did an interesting podcast about high, high achieving, um, I'm trying to think of the name of it. Anyway, I'll come up with the name of what it is. But she was talking about when you can see that there's a problem coming your way, right? And you understand that even if it's not your problem to solve, if you don't jump in and fix it, down the road, it's going to come back to you. So think about your kids, think about your work, think about the people you know, and you see that they're in a situation or there's a situation about to happen or could potentially happen based on what's happening in their life at the moment. And so you jump in and you say, "Oh, hey, I can see what's happening here because I'm on the hill looking at the forest. You're in the forest looking at the trees. And I see a potential problem here. I want to help you resolve this by showing you or telling you what I'm seeing." And it's really, you're doing that because I can speak for myself. I would do that to try to protect myself from some future outcome down the road that would happen maybe with my kids making a decision that I would think is going to harm them in some way and jumping in and trying to solve that. Um, and really, it's none of our business, number one. And number two, it's their path to walk, right? So I think that's that part of that patience in realizing that when you see something, it's all a fear-based reaction to a potential problem that could possibly happen in the future that you're trying to resolve. Instead of just saying, okay, I send you love. I just send you love,
that's
right?
that's that's that whole thing from the prophet. Your children are not your children, right? You cannot
Yes.
visit the world that they're in because theirs is the world of tomorrow.
Yep.
Easier said than
Yep.
done, though. I mean, I heard your voice kind of choking towards the end, but because we want to fix it, we can't help it. That's inbred in us, all right? And yes, how does one stay? Not even with your children. Sometimes even with a friend. How do you navigate that? Like to be able to say something without really saying, it's a challenge for sure. And staying
Right.
quiet is difficult, but sometimes that is the answer, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I was rereading that paragraph, and sentence 6 just jumped out at me. The past as well held no mistakes.
Right.
Nothing that did not served to benefit the world as well as him to whom it seemed to happen.
Yes, that jumped out at me.
It's true. It's a
Yeah.
mouthful. And it's, I think of like, well, and I wouldn't read that or talk about that. I just, someone flashed in my mind that would probably not be a conversation I'd have about that with that person. But I'm so grateful I can have it with you all.
Right, right. And then it says, perhaps it was not understood at the time.
Hmm.
But even so, the teacher of God is willing to reconsider all his past decisions if they're causing pain to anyone,
Hmm.
which goes back to the Ho'oponopono prayer, right? Even when you think you're trying to help someone,
Right.
I see that my screen is probably frozen. Did you guys hear any of that?
Yes.
I
Okay.
heard bits and pieces,
Okay. All right.
but I understood what you were saying.
Okay, good. Good,
Yes,
good.
I understood what you were saying. Oh yeah. No,
Great.
this is a very, this is like that phrase, man, that is just sticks with me. You know, all attack is so called for love. That did
Right.
that took years for me to understand what that was about. Okay,
Hmm.
years, and it took me to be ill from my stomach, not necessarily a virus or anything like that, but I think it was definitely mental. Okay,
Sure.
on on one of those boats that go up and down the Nile, you know, looking at different sites with this group that I was with. It hit me. I never forget. I was at the top, feeling like not feeling seasick or anything like that, but just not feeling good. And all of a sudden, I started thinking about that, and it came to me. I said, "Wow, I think I understand now what that line is. I can't believe it.
Hmm.
It was hard even for me to believe it then, but I understood it.
Yes.
If that makes any sense,
Yeah.
right?
But
You
it's
get it, but you
interesting.
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, no, you're good. You're good. I was just going to say, I, it's interesting how they talk about that as being a virtue of patience.
A virtue of patience.
Right.
Well, that's the line, right? Virtue. How does it go? Patience is virtue, or
Right.
something like that, right? Isn't that the
Yes,
line?
patience is a virtue, right? That's what they say. All right,
Uh,
shall we continue on to faithfulness?
yeah.
All right. Hopefully my screen won't cut out. Hmm. This is taking a little while. All right. Faithfulness. The extent of the teacher of God's faithfulness is the measure of his advancement in the curriculum. Does he still select some aspects of his life to bring to his learning while keeping others apart? If so, his advancement is limited and his trust not yet firmly established. Faithfulness is the teacher of God's trust in the world and trust in the word of God to set all things right. Not some, but all. Generally, his faithfulness begins by resting on just some problems, remaining carefully limited for a time. To give up all problems to one answer is to reverse the thinking of the world entirely. And that alone is faithfulness. Nothing but that really deserves the name. Yet each degree, however small, is worth achieving. Readiness, as the text notes, is not mastery. True faithfulness, however, does not deviate. Being consistent, it is wholly honest. Being unswerving, it is full of trust. Being based on fearlessness, it is gentle. Being certain, it is joyous. And being confident, it is tolerant. Faithfulness then combines in itself the other attributes of God's teachers. It implies acceptance of the Word of God and His definition of His Son. It is to them that faithfulness in the true sense is always directed. Toward them it looks, seeking until it finds. Defenselessness attends it naturally, and joy is its condition. And having found, it rests in quiet certainty on that alone to which all faithfulness is due. Well, that makes sense. Hi, Carol. Great to have you here today. We're in the Manual for Teachers page. We just finished page 15. Now we're on to 16. We've been talking about patience and faithfulness and not trying to fix or solve and realizing that things happen in the world and nothing that did not serve to benefit the world, right? The past as well held no mistakes.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just got on. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really amazing when you think about what all that entails. Having true patience and true faithfulness and like faith that all is happening the way it should happen.
I think to the extent that I was patient and had faith, it contributed to this a wonderful weekend I just had that couldn't have been any better, and it just felt perfect. And I can see where patience and faith came into it for that kind of happy dream to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. It took that to stay happy. Yeah.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
did. I didn't start out that way. I was anxious beforehand, but then I think faith kicked in, and a lot of things kicked in during the whole experience. All of my anxieties, there was no reason ever that nothing
Yep.
happened to have worried about beforehand.
Yeah. That's great.
So I'm learning that lesson.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good point. That, at first we start out, shall we say, practicing that which we know, which we have a grasp on in our world of duality, in our world of separation. So it's like, okay, I will practice patience until that faith kicks in of knowing that God's got this and it's all for our highest, and that connection to, I'm just going to trust in God's timing, if you will. And then you no longer, you can still exercise patience if you choose, but it's bigger, more expansive than patience. So you really don't need to remember patience anymore once you've got that broader perspective of it takes time and therefore takes the patience out of the equation, because you're not counting time to an outcome that you have hardwired that you want to see. You just know it's going to manifest when its time is proper for it to appear. And so it's a different way. It's like, are we manipulating the dream, or are we above it and just having fun in it?
Right. I had a beautiful example. It came to me when we read about patience of a situation that happened this weekend where I was there. I was witnessing, an attack on somebody, but I saw her attack. Instead, it was a call for love. And that's where I saw, oh, patience kicked in that way.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's
Because
kind of,
I didn't need to fix that. I didn't need to defend the person, being attacked. Yeah.
with that faith and trust, it's like if you were to say anything or intervene, it would come from an inner space. You would be just motivated to do that.
Right.
You don't have to get into some mental gymnastics about what you should or shouldn't do. Just
Right.
kind of rest in it. And
Right. Yeah, that didn't happen. And I was just quiet, and it was fine. And
mhm, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, or do nothing.
yeah,
Yeah. Right. That seems to be my greatest lesson lately. I need do nothing.
After you do something.
After I do something, yeah. I mean, I still do a lot of things, but when it comes to fixing and solving, I think it's I need do nothing is working much better in my life.
Yep.
All right, shall we keep going to open-mindedness? All right. The centrality of open-mindedness, perhaps the last of the attributes the teacher of God acquires, is easily understood when its relation to forgiveness is recognized. Open-mindedness comes with lack of judgment. As judgment shuts the mind against God's teacher, so open-mindedness invites him to come in. As condemnation judges the Son of God as evil, so open-mindedness permits him to be judged by the voice for God on his behalf. As the projection of guilt upon him would send him to hell, so open-mindedness lets Christ's image be extended to him. Only the open-minded can be at peace, for they alone see reason for it. How do the open-minded forgive? They have let go all things that would prevent forgiveness. They have in truth abandoned the world and let it be restored to them in newness and in joy so glorious they could never have conceived of such a change. Nothing is now as it was formerly. Nothing but sparkles now, which seemed so dull and lifeless before. And above all are all things welcoming, for threat is gone. No clouds remain to hide the face of Christ. Now is the goal achieved. Forgiveness is the final goal of the curriculum. It paves the way for what goes far beyond all learning. The curriculum makes no effort to exceed its legitimate goal. Forgiveness is its single aim, at which all learning ultimately converges. It is indeed enough. You may have noticed that the list of attributes of God's teachers does not include things that are the Son of God's inheritance. Terms like love, sinlessness, perfection, knowledge, and eternal truth do not appear in this context. They would be most inappropriate here. What God has given is so far beyond our curriculum that learning but disappears in its presence. Yet while its presence is obscured, the focus properly belongs on the curriculum. It is the function of God's teachers to bring true learning to the world. Properly speaking, it is unlearning that they bring, for that is true learning in the world. It is given to the teachers of God to bring the glad tidings of complete forgiveness to the world. Blessed indeed are they, for they are the bringers of salvation. All about forgiveness. Any thoughts about that?
Oh, Yeah, but I mean, it still has to be done. Even if, even if it's nothing to forgive, because it's how you get there.
Right.
I don't know if that makes any sense because it's kind of paradoxical.
Right. Yes. Forgiveness, because if you're holding a judgment, you haven't forgiven, right?
Right.
If you're holding any type of resentment or grievance against anyone,
Yeah.
you haven't forgiven.
Yeah, and the line, the line that I keep hearing that just doesn't make any sense is I can forgive, but I cannot forget. Well, then you haven't forgiven.
Right.
I mean, that's even more of a paradox.
Yeah.
Yeah, that line just, I don't even know what to think when people say that. So I say nothing.
Yeah. Sometimes that's the best thing to say, nothing.
Let it be.
All
Mhm.
right. Shall we continue on to how is healing accomplished?
Sure.
Unless
Well,
anybody has
I was
anything.
thinking a little bit about that line, I've forgiven, but I'll never forget. It's like, then if we are studying the course, perhaps the next thing is like, okay, you won't forget because obviously you've taken a lesson from it, as we all have. So now is an opportunity to go back and look at, is that lesson, how is it serving me now? May have served me once, but how is it serving me now? And can you then let go of that? And in that, it's sort of a form of forgetting. It's changing that lesson into something else, as we have evolved to that point where we no longer need to hang on to that, and we allow for change. So, because typically when we say we, forgive but not forget, it means that we learned a stinging lesson that we're going to hang on to.
Yeah. Or a profound lesson, right? I think of things that
Yeah.
I haven't forgotten, but I've embodied the lesson and have been so grateful for the opportunity, right?
Yeah, I would accept that definition better. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we can look back on our story and kind of reframe it in, oh, this was an opportunity for forgiveness,
Mm-hmm.
and learn from it that way. And when we remember it, kind of the thread starts to, you notice the same behind it all, and it can get there quicker as far as letting go of the memory where I can forgive them, but not really is one way of saying that, but I'll never forget. So, but to really forgive, there's that process. Mary
I can forgive and always be grateful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say, let go of the grievance and be grateful.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because otherwise you're setting an intention to bring it back up, right? I'll never forget, So
Right.
it's like, okay, I'm setting that intention. I'm going to bring that past into my present again and again and again until you recognize that, there's no need for that any longer.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can need do nothing, quote unquote, because there's no need attached to it.
Right. Right.
The only residue left is a blessing from whatever happened.
Yes, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, shall we keep going?
Sure.
On to how is healing accomplished? Healing involves an understanding of what the illusion of sickness is for. Healing is impossible without this. The perceived purpose of sickness. Healing is accomplished the instant the sufferer no longer sees any value in pain. Who would choose suffering unless he thought it brought him something, and something of value to him? He must think it is a small price to pay for something of greater worth. For sickness is an election, a decision. It is the choice of weakness in the mistaken conviction that it is strength. When this occurs, real strength is seen as threat and health as danger. Sickness is a method conceived in madness for placing God's Son on his Father's throne. God is seen as outside, fierce and powerful, eager to keep all power for himself. Only by his death can he be conquered by his Son. And what in this insane conviction does healing stand for? It symbolizes the defeat of God's Son and the triumph of his Father over him. It represents the ultimate defiance in a direct form, which the Son of God is forced to recognize. It stands for all that he would hide from himself to protect his life. If he is healed, he is responsible for his thoughts. And if he is responsible for his thoughts, he will be killed to prove to him how weak and pitiful he is. But if he chooses death himself, his weakness is his strength. Now has he given himself what God would give to him, and thus entirely usurped the throne of his Creator. Any thoughts about that? It's an interesting one, right? We all know people who've died. We all know people who've suffered from sickness, right? I mean, we've even been sick at times, right?
Yeah.
I noticed though lately that when I'm sick, it's usually, or sometimes I notice that it's following something that happened where I'm holding a grievance over a situation or something that happened. And I can correlate the two. And it's like, oh, look at this sickness that's here now. I just had this altercation happen in my life. I wonder if this sickness could be a result of this altercation and this grievance that I need to let go of and heal. So I notice that now if I'm starting to feel any bit of sickness, I'll go through the forgiveness prayer, right?
Mm.
Oh.
Have you ever been in a situation where a bunch of people are coughing around you, and then later in the day, all of a sudden you're like, oh, feel something in my throat, or I feel a little sore throat, and then automatically I'll be like, no, don't go down that road. I will put my right mind in charge. I'm like, you are not going down that road. Just stay away from that road.
Okay, so now I'll tell you my stick with that.
Okay.
I could be walking by somebody, and as soon as I am next to them, they'll cough, and I go, "Oh shit!" It's like I'll hold my breath, so I'm not breathing any air from the area, especially if they haven't covered their mouth.
Right.
And then as I go by, I go, "Okay, stop that shit now. Just don't go there. Don't even think about it."
Don't think about it, right? It's so funny too. As soon as you give it power, right?
Right.
It's almost like you give it permission to enter. It's like,
Yeah.
no, you do not have permission.
Right, right.
Mhm.
That's
Uh,
that's so interesting because here would be my technique. If it's a sneeze or a cough, or say there's a dust cloud coming at me, anything I don't want to inhale, there's this yogic breath called Kapalabhati or shining skull. Anyway, this forceful exhalation and a real passive inhalation. So you're not getting a bunch, but you're getting it deep out of your lungs. And I've always been thinking, oh, this is a wonderful thing to do. I teach my kids, I tell you, there's nothing else you learn from me. Learn how to do this breath so you don't have to inhale stuff you don't want to. And then I just had the thought, what if you just knew you weren't a body and it wouldn't matter whether you could, if you
Right?
can't do Kapalabhati, it's not the end of the world.
Exactly. Exactly.
It helps you in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, your body could be sick
Hmm.
if you,
Yeah.
but it doesn't mean you are.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Mhm.
And that might be a great segue into our next section, the shift in perception. Let's see. All right, the shift in perception. Healing must occur in exact proportion to which the valuelessness of sickness is recognized. One need but say, there's no gain at all to me in this, and he's healed. But to say this, one first must recognize certain facts. First, it is obvious that decisions are of the mind, not of the body. If sickness is but a faulty problem-solving approach, it is a decision. And if it is a decision, it is the mind and not the body that makes it. The resistance to recognizing this is enormous because the existence of the world as you perceive it depends on the body being the decision maker. Terms like instincts or reflexes and the like represent attempts to endow the body with non-mental motivators. Actually, such terms merely state or describe the problem. They do not answer it. The acceptance of sickness as a decision of the mind for a purpose for which it would use the body is the basis of healing. And this is so for healing in all forms. A patient decides that this is so, and he recovers. If he decides against recovery, he will not be healed. Who is the physician? Only the mind of the patient himself. The outcome is what he decides that it is. Special agents seem to be ministering to him, yet they but give form to his own choice. He chooses them in order to bring tangible form to his desires. And it is this they do and nothing else. They're not actually needed at all. The patient could merely rise up without their aid and say, I have no use for this. There is no form of sickness that would not be cured at once. What is the single requisite for the shift in perception? It is simply this: the recognition that sickness is of the mind and has nothing to do with the body. What does this recognition cost? Well, it costs the whole world you see, but the world will never again appear to rule the mind. For with this recognition is responsibility placed where it belongs, not with the world, but on him who looks on the world and sees it as it is not. He looks on what he chooses to see, no more, no less. The world does nothing to him. He only thought it did. Nor does he do anything to the world because he was mistaken about what it is. Herein is the release from guilt and sickness, both, for they are one. Yet to accept this release, the insignificance of the body, must be an acceptable idea. With this idea is pain forever gone. But with this idea goes also all confusion about creation. Does not this follow of necessity? Place cause and effect in their true sequence in one respect, and the learning will generalize and transform the world. The transfer value of one true idea has no end or limit. The final outcome of this lesson is the remembrance of God. What do guilt and sickness, pain, disaster, and all suffering mean now? Having no purpose, they're gone. And with them also go all the effects they seemed to cause. Cause and effect, but replicate creation, seen in their proper perspective, without distortion and without fear, they re-establish heaven. Okay. Let's do that.
Mm, mm,
I have no use for this.
That's right.
Right.
No, thank you.
Right. Yep.
mhm.
Yeah. It makes me think of what I do, hold my breath, let it out as I go by and say, stop that shit, okay? You're giving it, you're giving it energy, dude. You're giving it energy. Don't. Oh my God. The things that we, all the little things that we do when we're out there, huh?
Mm.
Yeah. This is why I like the course, because you can let it open to all our idiosyncrasies, which is not very synchronous. Oh,
Anybody have any other thoughts or shares they want to add to this section?
We're working on it.
Work in progress, right?
it is. I mean, this is part of the evolving, right? This is how we evolve. No?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going to the function of the teacher of God. All right, if the patient must change his mind in order to be healed, what does the teacher of God do? Can he change the patient's mind for him? Certainly not. For those already willing to change their minds, he has no function except to rejoice with them, for they have become teachers of God with him. He has, however, a more specific function for those who do not understand what healing is. These patients do not realize they have chosen sickness. On the contrary, they believe that sickness has chosen them. Nor are they open-minded on this point. The body tells them what to do, and they obey. They have no idea how insane this concept is. If they even suspected it, they would be healed. Yet they suspect nothing. To them, the separation is quite real. To them, God's teachers come to represent another choice, which they had forgotten. The simple presence of a teacher of God is a reminder. His thoughts ask for the right question, what the patient has accepted as true. As God's messengers, his teachers are the symbols of salvation. They ask the patient for forgiveness, for God's Son, in his own name. They stand for the alternative. With God's word in their minds, they come in benediction, not to heal the sick, but to remind them of the remedy God has already given them. It is not their hands that heal. It is not their voice that speaks the word of God. They merely give what has been given them. Very gently, they call to their brothers to turn away from death. Behold, you Son of God, what life can offer you. Would you choose sickness in place of this? Not once do the advanced teachers of God consider the forms of sickness in which their brother believes. To do this is to forget that all of them have the same purpose, and therefore are not really different. They seek for God's voice in his brother, who who would so deceive himself as to believe God's Son can suffer. And they remind him that he did not make himself and must remain as God created him. They recognize illusions can have no effect. The truth in their minds reaches out to the truth in the minds of their brothers, so that illusions are not reinforced. They are thus brought to truth. Truth is not brought to them. So are they dispelled, not by the will of another, but by the union of the one will with itself. And this is the function of God's teachers, to see no will as separate from their own, nor theirs as separate from God's. That's beautiful. I love that. When I was in Los Angeles this last time, I had a lot of time to talk with my granddaughter, and we were talking a lot about just gladdening the heart and filling it with love, and that love heals all things. And at one point, she had hurt her leg or something. And I said, "Oh, let Grandma see it." And I put my hands on her legs and I said, "I'm going to send love to your heart. And then you can send your heart love to your leg and you can fix it." And so I go, "Here, I'm sending all my love to your heart." And I go, "Now you take that love and you put all that love in your leg." And she did. I go, "Does it feel better?" She goes, "Yes." I didn't know how to
I
explain
love
it to a
that.
2.5-year-old.
Perfect. Yeah. Even better than just kissing the boo-boo.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because it's empowering.
Yes. Yeah.
What are you doing to this child?
Just giving her all my love.
Mhm.
Just loving her up as much as I can.
And I'll tell you so it's like the third generation from the boomers are getting all the age of Aquarius.
Right?
Yeah. The third generation, I think, third, something like that.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
All the world needs now is love, sweet love.
I know, right? Don't you love that song? It's still one of my favorites.
Yeah, yeah. No, the book I'm reading now is it's emphasizing all that stuff that we learned from the harmonic convergence to 2012. It's
Yeah.
putting all of that in perspective, all that stuff that we've been hearing about. It's gone from Piscean to Aquarius.
Yeah.
All of that, the cosmos. I mean, this book is just tying all kinds of ends together.
Yeah.
And some really wild stuff out there that I can't even begin to say. Well, it was hard for me to comprehend the Course in Miracles, so I guess this can't be far off from that either.
I had a woman come to my sound bath last week. I think I shared this with you guys, and it still sticks with me. And we were talking about A Course in Miracles, and she said, "Oh, there's so much more. There's so much."
Mhm.
And I
Uh-huh.
said, "Yeah, I know." And she said, and she was an older woman, and she said, I see a lot of people get stuck studying A Course in Miracles, that they think that's it. They just get so stuck on it, and they don't realize there's so much more.
Mhm.
You know, if we're just willing to accept this, we can move on and expand, right?
Yes.
And allow so much more to enter. which
That
is
is,
just part of our natural way of expanding, right?
yep.
And creating.
I was that same thought that you voiced is one of the things that has been utmost in my mind. But I've been doing that. I mean, Stoltec stuff,
Sure. Yeah.
Buddhism. I mean, I don't limit myself to anything.
Right.
I never have.
Same. Yeah.
And I've been accused exactly of what you just said. Oh, you're stuck on that. I'm like, okay, if you say so.
Yeah.
But I
And
know,
what I
but I know I'm not. You know what I mean? Like
Right. And I know I'm not either. And what I said was, I feel like A Course in Miracles is my practice, but it's also my gateway, right? It's the opening. And the more I practice the Course in Miracles, the more open I am to being um, fully aware and fully realized, right? It's like it's the practice that gets you to the place where you're accepting the ability to be open. Yeah. To
yeah,
completely let go, to completely trust all these things that we're reading, to have complete faith.
To even let go of this.
Yes,
and the course tells you that too. It's
it
Mhm.
does. Forget this course.
any discipline will tell you that,
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
and
exactly.
that's how you know that you're on the right track,
That's right. That's right.
or whatever track that is.
Right. Whatever. Apparently there is no wrong track, which we read today.
Right, right, right.
All right, let's get one more in. Is healing certain? Healing is always certain. It is impossible to let illusions be brought to truth and keep the illusions. Truth demonstrates illusions have no value. The teacher of God has seen the correction of his errors in the mind of the patient, recognizing it for what it is. Having accepted the at-one-ment for himself, he has also accepted it for the patient. Yet, what if the patient uses sickness as a way of life, believing healing is the way to death? When this is so, a sudden healing might precipitate intense depression and a sense of loss so deep that the patient might even try to destroy himself. Having nothing to live for, he may ask for death. Healing must wait for his protection. Healing will always stand aside when it would be seen as threat. The instant it is welcome, it is there. Where healing has been given, it will be received. And what is time before the gifts of God? We've referred many times in the text to the storehouse of treasures laid up equally for the giver and the receiver of God's gifts. Not one is lost, for they can but increase. No teacher of God should feel disappointed if he has offered healing and it does not appear to have been received. It is not up to him to judge when his gift should be accepted. Let him be certain it has been received and trust that it will be accepted when it is recognized as a blessing and not a curse. It is not the function of God's teachers to evaluate the outcome of their gifts. It is merely their function to give them. Once they have done that, they have also given the outcome, for that is part of the gift. No one can give if he is concerned with the result of giving. That is a limitation on the giving itself, and neither the giver nor the receiver would have the gift. Trust is an essential part of giving. In fact, it is the part that makes sharing possible, the part that guarantees the giver will not lose, but only gain. Who gives a gift and then remains with it to be sure it is used as the giver deems appropriate? Such is not giving, but imprisoning.
Mhm.
It is the relinquishing of all concern about the gift that makes it truly given. And it is trust that makes true giving possible. Healing is the change of mind that the Holy Spirit, in the patient's mind, is seeking for him. And it is the Holy Spirit in the mind of the giver who gives the gift to him. How can it be lost? How can it be ineffectual? How can it be wasted? God's treasure house can never be empty. And if one gift is missing, it would not be full. Yet is its fullness guaranteed by God? What concern, then, can a teacher of God have about what becomes of his gifts? Given by God to God, who in this holy exchange can receive less than everything? And it goes back to our earlier conversation, is that you are everyone given by God to God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in that musical, the Wicked,
Mm-hmm.
there's the way that I saw the storyline was that here was someone who had this thing was going on with her, you know, the I forget her name, but the protagonist, and when she would get emotional, all things would start flying.
Right.
She couldn't control it. And in the song, it says, there's a line that says, and this curse or this gift that I have, at last I'll know why. Because it's not a curse, it was a gift.
Right.
And recognizing that particular thing of it is what I'm gathering here. I mean, for the movie, that's what it said to me.
Yeah.
That you know, you, and so of course she's there to hone that gift, right? I think they go to that school to learn how to navigate their power, the gift that we all have, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
that we all have. That's the way I saw that whole movie, from the
Yeah.
songs, and then I the medley. We did a medley. I'm on this group that we did the medley, and going through that whole song was like, or through that whole medley of songs was like very spiritual, very
Oh, that's
spiritual,
great.
right? Because all I could think about is like, wow, how much on point is this thing moving
Mm-hmm.
through life? And for
Yeah.
me, it was like, wow, okay, this is very synchronous. So I had to write a journal on it. That's what although pretty much what I said is what I wrote for the journal.
Nice.
I didn't see it.
Wicked?
Yeah, I didn't see it.
Oh, then it's a must.
Yeah.
Put that up in the suggestion box for next Wednesday.
There you go.
Sounds good.
It is good. It is good. It's very good.
I don't think we should get into another section because we won't have time to discuss it. But feel free to discuss whatever's on your mind right now.
You also, did you see Wicked?
I did.
Okay. So you know what
Yeah.
I'm talking about, kind
Yeah.
of, right? Yeah.
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 All the songs, all the Gravity, the song Gravity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm flying free even though I'm flying solo. I mean, the words are still in my head from the song.
Yeah. Pam, you're in a singing group too, right?
Yes,
Yes. See a
but
lot
we
of
don't.
in here.
We sing quiet songs at bedsides for people on hospice
Yeah.
that have songs that have been written by Threshold Choir members. Nothing anybody would have ever heard before, usually.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. I love that.
But if we knew Wicked and somebody requested it, that would be fun.
Yeah.
Where do you live, Pam?
Tallahassee, Florida.
Oh, oh,
The
okay.
Threshold Choir is international, I'm sure,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
So in this group that I'm singing with is a group from BCC, from a community college. And this teacher that we have, her first job was that she was an opera singer. So she started teaching after she retired from that. And so she picks the song kind of with the class itself. And we did some folk songs that were more operatic like. She's like the swallow. I don't know if you've heard of these, the eyes of Oh, I can't think of them now. So my mind is
Mm.
just the eyes of something. And the other one was the broth. But anyways, so some of the songs are very challenging, demanding in the sense that, you know, they have to be sang with the right notes, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's quite the learning experience for me. I like to sing, but I couldn't tell you a C minor, a C from a, you know, a B flat from A minor. I don't think A minor even exists, but, but, heck, I'm trying in there, you know, and
There you
I'm in a
go.
class with people, with kids that are, you know, between 16 and 20, and they've been singing and studying music forever, since they were born, practically. And they're all asking for, you know, the note here, you know, can you please give me that note, you know, F sharp, you know, G sharp. And I'm like, man, it all sounds. So I'm learning to play the piano anyway, as a way to
Good.
That's
see if
very
I can
good.
train my ear that way. But I don't know if you can teach this old dog new tricks, though. I don't know.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
I'm working it. I'm
You're
working.
an inspiration.
I'm
Definitely.
working it. Plus, I enjoyed the songs. I mean, you know, so I enjoyed those folk songs that were operatic, and then we did a couple of jazz songs. Stand by Me. It don't mean a thing if it ain't got, if it don't mean a thing if it ain't got that rhythm, something like that.
Swing.
Yeah.
And
Do up, do up, do up.
do up. That's right. Do up. Listen. And we did it. So the way we do it, it's like a
Nice
chorus
song.
type of thing, back and forth. You know, where the sopranos will say something, and then the basses and the tenors respond
Mm.
back and forth. I mean, we did it. I mean, I'm so excited just being there singing that I get lost in it. I mean, it's almost like a trance.
Yeah, singing is beautiful that way. I
Yeah.
love it.
It is. It is. Because it's for the joy of it. I mean, I just enjoy it. To me, it's not work at all, or you know, whatever it is. You know,
Right.
I'm doing it there for the pleasure. Yeah, for the passion, pleasure of it.
Mhm.
Plus, the teacher is, you know, she's so good, and she motivates all the kids. I mean, and she also has to play that mother role. You know, like turn in your assignments and constantly be like, you know, hammering.
The teacher role. Yeah.
Teacher role. Yeah, yeah. Because you know, at that age, is we're going from teenagehood to adulthood.
Yeah.
That's a big transition.
Mm.
Well, I don't want to keep you guys too long. I know it's almost time. So I just want to say thank you all for being here, and I will see you next week.
And thank you for letting me come and go when I can.
Always.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Always.
All
Whenever
right.
you can make it. All right.
Peace.
You guys have a great week. All right.
You too. You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye.